Welcome back to Moonbath Chats. We're going to talk about Agatha All Along, Episode 7. Let's get into the spoilers. But yeah, this is Lilia's episode. It's her trial, it's her week. And what an episode. Of any episode of the season so far, this one really benefits from repeat viewings. It's a bit disorienting to give you Lilia's perspective, you know? We get an opening of her falling in her Good Witch attire from Wizard of Oz. That ties in to the ending of the episode. Back to the Witch's Road, we got Agatha and Billy back at it. I guess Agatha senses that Billy's trying to read her mind, but he can't because she's, I think, adept at not getting her mind read. There was a scene in WandaVision where he wasn't able to read her mind because her mind was so quiet. She had that power to block it. He points out he doesn't feel like Wanda's his mother much. I guess he still kind of identifies with being William. And I think really what it is, I mean, he's still in that confused phase, which, you know, that's a big question he has coming up here. Who is he? Is he William? Is he Billy? And I guess it's really that he's kind of a mix of both, it seems, you know? There's a theory that maybe this is just part of Billy's manifestation. Like, it's almost like he created this road unconsciously, similar to how Wanda did. And that's why, like, all the references coming up here are all pop culture references that William Kaplan was very fond of and familiar with, you know, throughout the road. You know, it all represents basically what you see in his room in the previous episode, right? All the posters, you know, referencing Wizard of Oz and such, which is why Agatha feels out of place, or feels like she's not contributing as much as she could if this were the Witch's Road. So they go into the castle, so we get a little bit more fantasy this time in this trial. They transform into maybe some stereotypical looking witches, you know, the green witch from Wizard of Oz. Billy is Maleficent, right, from Sleeping Beauty, and looking pretty good. You know, he's liking his cheekbones, he says. and Agatha's like, oh yeah, the Wicked Witch was based on me, by the way. I feel like maybe the Maleficent is a little bit too close to Maleficent, too Disneyfied. I don't know. I kind of waiting, especially later we see Jed being like the witch from the Snow White. It's like maybe it's a little bit too Disney. They could have maybe just had one Disney reference, but you know, it's Disney. Side note about the aspect ratios, we did get a new aspect ratio with Lilia's trial here. It's a slightly wider ratio than what we got in Alice's and Jen's trial, but when we flash back to Lilia's past, it's back to that wide cinematic ratio that we've seen throughout the Witch's Road, as well as in the episodes focusing on Agatha in the first two episodes and in Agatha's trial. And then also Billy had his own ratio during his flashback. So I thought the ratios were tied to particular characters, but I don't know anymore because Lilia also had the wide one with her flashbacks. So I think it's more just an aesthetic choice to differentiate different scenarios, whether it's a flashback or a trial. I guess I'll hold on to more thoughts until we get to the end of the series. Just wanted to point it out that Lilia's trial does have a unique aspect ratio. And so they discover that the trial is all about the tarot reading. They gotta do the reading correctly or else all these swords are gonna impale them. And Billy, you know, isn't proficient in these card readings here. He's actually, you know, earnest about it. He knows a bit about tarot reading divinations. Of course, Agatha's the opposite, you know, she thinks it's just all a con, doesn't, you know, she doesn't take it at all seriously. She hasn't taken this whole trial very seriously. She feels like it's a numbers game. We just got to put a bunch of cards down and eventually we'll get the right answer. But they don't really have enough time because now the ceiling is moving down. They're going to get squished. And we go back to Lilia because guess what? Lilia and Jen are not dead. They survived. And the set design is a bit theatrical and feels a little bit low budget. It works for the most part, and especially if this is just a creation by Billy. I guess it also makes more sense that it's kind of dramatic. Like when they first came here, Billy was like, oh, this looks just like I imagined it to be looking like. And Agatha was like, it suits you. Then she was like, oh, of course you're Maximoff. You know, if you weren't, this whole thing wouldn't be so dramatic. Which is road itself, the trials, all that are just overly dramatic. Just like, you know, how Wanda overly dramatized her Westview, where it all became like different TV shows, you know. We get the start of the sequence here where Lilia is out of time, bouncing between different points in time, you know. So this is Lilia's first lesson in tea leaf reading back in the day with her grandma. This type of time travel is the one where like it's more like her consciousness is traveling through time, because as a divination witch, she like sees the future and such. It's getting worse, her power's getting worse, as if she's getting too close to her end. You know, Jen's trying to looking at the positive side, like, oh, maybe it's like you're reaching the end of the road and you're gonna get your power, your full power back, which Lilia is not so sure she wants. But now we're flashed back into the trial. Lilia's wearing the Good Witch outfit from Wizard of Oz, the opposite of Agatha. And Jen, she's got the look of the witch from the Disney Snow White cartoon. At certain points you do see her holding an apple. Because this is Lilia's trial, it's representative of her anxieties. So her anxiety is always being compared to these false depictions of witches that don't represent her. You know, she wants to escape those stereotypes. And so now Billy wants to know, like, is she the one who put the sigil on him? She apparently saw his future. She says she saw what he would become, and so she needed to protect him so he could get to that point, so he can become Wiccan and perhaps be pivotal in some big upcoming event, or just maybe to get them through this trial. You know, people have brought this up other places, that Lilia is kind of responsible for what happened in Multiverse of Madness. Like, if she hadn't put that sigil on Billy, then Wanda would have been able to find Billy, you know, during the events of Multiverse of Madness, because she was looking for her children, and she had to go to a different universe to find them. You know, had the sigil not been placed, or she would have been able to find Billy right here in this universe. I guess Lilia maybe saw that the Darkhold needed to be destroyed, and the only way for that to happen was to hide Billy, so Wanda would eventually get to the point where she destroyed all the Darkholds in Multiverse of Madness. And we get more of those flashbacks connecting those moments where Lilia goes a little bit kooky. The grandma's like, you should get a coven. You need a coven. Lilia is a bit stubborn because she feels that it's the best way forward for, you know, to be a hermit, to play the fraud fortune teller. It's given her an uneventful and stagnant life that she's kind of settled into, but it's not really fulfilling, you know. What she really wants right now is that control over this time slipping. But the grandma's like, nah, you know, your power is really just to see, not to control. She finds a spell book that Billy dropped, and that seems like it's going to be important. She does give it to him later on. She's had these episodes before of like unable to control these visions, but you know, she put a stop to herself by ignoring it, really, by putting it aside. She says all she ended up seeing was death, really, is what she's saying. And that's pretty grim, right? So now this ties back to when Billy and Agatha first entered the trial and are trying to figure out how to get past the tarot card challenge. And they find the bookshelf, the entrance, just in time when Billy's like, I wish Lilia was here. At this point, Lilia's a little bit more confident and ready to take on the challenge, right? She tells Billy to relax, you know, she's not mad at him at this point. They need a querent to ask the questions, you know, to do a proper tarot reading. Billy's like, yeah, I'm the querent, you know, because he's very queer right here with that outfit, especially, right? Let's get into Billy's reading. You know, this is pretty important because it kind of like foretells where the show is leading. And, you know, and luckily, as an expert tarot divination witch, Lilia's gonna lay it all out for us. The card in the middle represents the person asking the questions, the querent. The cards on the left and right are obstacles and windfalls. The ones on the bottom are the past and the future. And the one on the top is what's missing. Why are you on this trial? She needs the question to start off. And it's the question that has been plaguing Billy for several years now, you know, ever since he came back to life as Billy. Is he Billy or is he William? We got the first one, he's the magician. Makes sense, he's Wiccan, you know, he has all his potential and the ability to turn his goals into reality, which is interesting because that's kind of what Wanda did too, right? She kind of turned her desires based on grief into reality in WandaVision. And now is it that Billy is creating this reality they're in right now? Could that be what's happening? And so he picks the sun for what's missing. Good fortune, joy, reunion. Reunion's key there. So it would seem to me that means a reunion with Tommy, perhaps. That's his main goal, to come to the Witch's Road, right? To reunite with his brother Tommy. The swords are still falling down, so something isn't quite right. And so she flashes back again. But then there's also other little moments here that I didn't really connect until now, which is fun. You know, when she's like, oh, in the beginning we all hated each other, connecting to the moment when she's all dazed out. And it's like, I love you guys. That connects there. And, you know, so it is fun to go back, and it all fits well together. So kudos to the writing team here for pulling it off. I guess those swords falling down kind of provoked Lilia, or led Lilia to question maybe what she's missing, you know, and go back to her past here when her grandmother was asking her about it. You know, why are you here, you know? And she's like, oh, it's to get my power back, maybe? The grandmother's like, no, it's not really gone. You've always really had it. She starts to get a little bit closer because she's thinking, oh, I'm a forgotten woman. In general, like as you grow older as a woman, people tend to dismiss you and not pay much attention, right? She feels like her power hasn't had much purpose to this point because, you know, she saw, you know, her whole original coven die, you know, her family, you know, to the plague, and she couldn't stop it. But the grandmother's like, well, you know, death comes for us all. What is important is what you do with your time. And so that's what Lily has to figure out here to get a little closer to that enlightenment. Like, oh yeah, okay, I'm figuring out my purpose here. So she wakes up back in the caverns underneath the road. She's starting to feel all the things fall into place again. I guess she feels a bit ecstatic about it, that things are making a little bit more sense for her now, and she can do something meaningful with the remaining time in her life. But now we see that there's actually a way out of the Witch's Road, and what looks like an exit to a subway station. Looks like a subway car over there, right? You know, that gives Jen pause, like, oh, maybe I should just get out of here now. Might as well, right? They hear the Salem 7 creeping up, and they gotta choose quickly, and so they go back down the path to the Witch's Road. The Salem 7 narrowly miss them, who are still on the lookout for Agatha. So yeah, so I think, you know, Jen also realizes that, like, she has a bigger purpose in life, and she can only find it really on the road, and she needs to help out her friends, her coven, you know? And I guess that also kind of helps Lilia realize what she did wrong during the trial that's about to happen, you know, because she's bouncing back and forth again. This communion between sisters here makes her realize that, oh, like, the trial wasn't about finding Billy's path. It was about cementing her own path. You know, it's her trial. You know, she's the querent. She has to do the tarot card reading on herself. But by the way, like, yeah, so we do see that subway thing here. So here, and it's another clue here that this Witch's Road may not be what it seems. What exactly is the Witch's Road, and where is it located? Like, would it really be connected to a subway? It looks like this is the subway system underneath Westview. This could be another clue that this, in fact, isn't the actual Witch's Road. It's just Billy manifesting it, creating a Witch's Road in his vision of what a Witch's Road is within the tunnels of Westview. Again, similar to how Wanda created her Westview, you know. Anyway, so we go back to the trial at hand. So now it's time to do Lilia's tarot reading. She sees that she's the Queen of Cups, empathetic, intuitive, you know, and that she needs to trust her inner voice. And Agatha, of course, is kind of like, hurry it up. We know you're a noble person, a noble witch. Let's get to it. Put the card down. It seems to be working because no sword fell down, you know, so it looks like she's on the right path. So now the next card's like, what's missing? What's the missing thing in her life? She needs her coven. That's what's missing, you know, as her grandmother told her all those centuries ago. She finally accepts it that, yeah, I can't be a hermit. Finally see the full list. Now, that's the name of all the witches we know. Agatha, Lilia, Jennifer, and Alice. And then we get that black heart. Now, that black heart we did not see in that second episode. And again, remember, Agatha ate up that list because she didn't want the team to see. Now, at first, people were thinking that black heart represented Rio, because she says that she has a black heart for Agatha. She did replace Sharon. But then also, there's that moment where Billy is texting with his boyfriend, and his boyfriend's he uses an emoji, a black heart emoji, to represent my love. You're my love. Is that what she meant when she drew that little heart? It would make sense for her to draw that little heart because at this point, that sigil was still on Billy, so she wouldn't be able to write his name down. So the next is the path behind. That represents Alice. She's the Knight of Wands, the protector. And that's behind them now. She's gone, unfortunately. While the path ahead, Jen is the path ahead. She is the High Priestess. She's saying that she has all this power that she's not willing to use. That seems to mean that Jen has a very pivotal role coming up here. If not in the final episodes, then maybe even in the whole MCU. And then as for obstacles, looks like 3 swords impaling Agatha represents sorrow and grief. Agatha has been feeling this grief for her dead son, of course, and has been seeing Billy as almost like a replacement for her son during this whole witch's road. Agatha being the mean witch, the wicked witch, she has been a major obstacle along the way, always kind of looking out for herself and not taking it so seriously. Now there's the Windfall card, which represents Billy. He's the Tower reversed, disaster and upheaval avoided, and also miraculous transformation. The transformation of him from William Kaplan into Billy and into Wiccan. So with these tarot cards, if you notice, when we get a close-up, we see in the corner there the same sigil that Lilia put on Billy is visible there, right? That sigil, I think, represents that this is Lilia's tarot deck. And so the sigil that she put on Billy, I think, it doesn't particularly mean anything other than Lilia herself. I think it's more of just Lilia's signature. When the card is placed on the table, the sigil isn't there anymore. There's no sign there. There's no signature there. Now, this could be a continuation error, unintentional. And actually, I think that's what it is. But maybe it has some significance. In the promo material that they released of these tarot cards, that sigil is present. So it could be a thing they added later on. But I found that a bit curious. I don't know exactly what that means. And so then we get to the final bit here. She's getting to that destination point, but along the way, she joined a coven and she's going to help them. She's going to be that sacrifice here. Here's where we get the big reveal of the episode. Who exactly is this Rio character? Something that, a lot of us fans have pretty much figured it out. There was a Funko Pop leak that kind of revealed it too. Even if you weren't in the theory communities or too online, you might have been able to connect the dots here yourself, because as we see here in these flashbacks, especially this line here, I get my bodies, we can see that Rio has always been interested in death. And then here they pretty much spell it out here when they spell out death on the Ouija board, and Rio laughs about it. And so Rio reminds Lilia here that all roads lead to her. Kind of what Grandma was saying, how death comes for us all, right? At the end of every road, including the witch's road, there is death. Here we go. Rio in her full death outfit. She has her dagger. We've seen that dagger before. Got a crown. And she's holding what looks like, is that a flower? Again, connecting her to being a green witch. She corpses down through the soil and into the afterlife, the underworld. It's a similar look to maybe a saintly Latin American type of image of death. Rio has spoken some lines of Spanish before, and Rio means river in Spanish, so there's that connection there. So I'm curious if we'll see a little bit of her history there in the last couple episodes. A little flashback maybe. There it is. Rio is death. Bum bum bum. And, you know, and that's why she's been missing. She's been taking care of those corpses. She was probably taking care of Alice, right? She was taking Alice to the underworld. And there it is. There's the whole layout. These cards, you know, they're like an Agatha All Along version of the tarot. These are unique drawings for the show. And they were actually released as a promo image beforehand. You know, if you saw that promo image, it was pretty clear that that was Rio, right? Because Rio has that knife. That's the unfortunate thing about like these mystery shows that are produced by these big studios like Disney or whatever. Like they have to do their marketing. They have to get their merchandise out there to make all that money back. And so you're gonna have these leaks. You're gonna have all this material out there. So it may spoil some things. But I think, you know, a lot of people who probably aren't as online and not really paying attention to the discourse in between, this probably was more of a surprise to them, you know. But overall, like, again, like, it's not so much about whether it was surprising or not, but just you know, the execution of it. And I think it was pretty well done. And this is just, you know, just some fun imagery here. This episode particularly really pulled everything together really well. Another standout line from Agatha, you know, she likes the bad boys. Though I wonder if maybe she could have said a more gender neutral term there. I like the bad ones. I like the bad guys. You know, but of course, you know, bad boys is more of a common term in general. Which reminds me of that line she said earlier, which I forgot to mention. When, you know, when she wanted Emily to ask him questions about herself, really. And without reading her mind, she says, "You want straight answers? Ask a straight lady." Which, you know, has a double meaning there, of course. Maybe they could have played with the wording here a little bit more regarding to bad boys. But, you know, whatever, it's fine. So they got to get out of there because the Salem 7 are just around the corner. So out through the Iron Maiden they go. That's the portal out. Agatha goes first. Of course, she has to be the first one out. But Lilia tells her, "When she calls you a coward, hit the deck." Now, who is she talking about? I think it's Rio, right? It has to be Rio she's referring to. It feels like this is leading up to a confrontation with Agatha versus Rio at the end here. Rio seems to be the main baddie now, I think, right? I think Agatha probably will decide to favor the coven over power and choose not to kill her coven. And that's what's gonna maybe get Rio to say that she's a coward. You know, hit the deck. She's gonna have to duck or something. She's gonna have to get out of the way before Rio shoots at her with her magic or something to kill her. I think it was earlier on that Rio and Agatha had that back and forth about how they couldn't kill each other. Maybe indirectly Rio is gonna launch some kind of projectile at Agatha, and Agatha has to literally duck out of the way, hit the deck. But it could mean different things, right? Maybe could it mean that hit the deck means hit the tarot deck, the tarot card deck? When Rio calls her a coward, she's going to have to turn to the tarot card to find her way out of her predicament. Hit the deck, maybe it's just metaphorical. The deck represents the coven in general. Agatha has to turn to the coven, turn to Jen, turn to Billy, and get help from them. You know, maybe that's what it means. You know, so they can overcome the final trial versus death, perhaps. As for Billy, she gives him the spell book she found. You know, she's like, "Oh, it was magic. I came across it." That's definitely going to be important coming up. He's going to have to use that, I imagine, to fight back Rio or whoever is in their way, right? At the end of the road. For Jen, she reminds her that she is the path ahead. She is the high priestess. Could it be that Jen is the one that is the sole survivor of the trial at the end? Agatha maybe trades her life for her son Nicholas Scratch to come back. Billy does sacrifice himself for Tommy. I think this indicates that Jen is going to be a pivotal character moving forward beyond this series, and maybe she'll get her own spin-off or something. I don't know. Or maybe she'll be a key figure in the upcoming Avengers Secret Wars or whatever. But Lilia stays behind. She realizes that her purpose is to, I guess, sacrifice herself to protect the rest of the coven. She has to do it to defeat the Salem 7. And she says that, you know, it's not good to stay behind once you've completed a trial, because horrible, disastrous things happen. But Lilia has the magic of terror on her side. She's got the tower reversed to pull, which, because of magic, actually reverses the tower they're in right now. We get a cool special effect scene here of them falling towards the ceiling. It's quite a poignant, beautiful scene, you know, actually in this, the slow-mo scene. A good use of slow-mo here. They fall and they get impaled. And for a second, it's like, oh, maybe Lilia's going to survive this, but she slips. But again, she's able to kind of travel through time, through her consciousness. So is it really the end for her? You could also see it like a time loop, right? So it's almost like an infinite cycle for her. Right here, it looks like she's going back to her childhood, to her first lesson, with a smile on her face. I wonder if, like, maybe she's like creating a new timeline here. She's traveling back to this moment with satisfaction that she accomplished her purpose in life, and maybe now this is a split timeline, and she'll, you know, with that confidence, even have a better life now. I don't know. Either way, it's almost like she's starting again, you know, from the beginning. You know, it's a nice conclusion because it's like, it makes it a little less sad, you know. So it's almost like she's gonna relive those centuries again, you know. So it's never quite the end, you know. It's an infinite loop for her, which is quite interesting. You know, I guess this also kind of represents the acceptance of death, you know, kind of like her grandmother was saying, like it softens the blow a bit, you know, seeing your death, but also seeing your beginning at the same time. I don't know, it's pretty cool. Yeah. I thought it was a nice ending and a nice episode. But yeah, again, it was a bit disorienting, but like, especially, you know, going back through it like this, and even rewatching it before this, like, it's pretty satisfying, you know, seeing all the threads connect together. And, you know, we finally got the reveal that Rio is death, and we're now prepared for the final couple episodes, which are going to be airing back to back next week. Big finale. With the Salem 7 gone, it looks like Rio is going to be the main baddie. There could be another twist coming up, maybe. You know, is Billy gonna meet up with Tommy? You know, is Jen gonna achieve her high priestess status and get her full power back to, you know, or is everyone gonna choose the coven over death? Or death, maybe, you know, maybe they need to choose death to save the coven. I don't know. There's so many things can happen, but it's exciting, you know. And again, this show has been pretty consistent in terms of quality, and so I'm pretty confident it's gonna end well. These images here we're seeing of all this witchy stuff, it all seems to be from William Kaplan's room. I think, like, this is all the stuff that William/Billy were into, you know. I'm sure he was a big fan of the craft. I don't know if he even had a poster. Did he have a poster of the craft in his room in that scene when he was like showing his boyfriend his internet sleuthing? Could be a clue to what was really going on with the Witch's Road. Again, the theory that, like, Billy himself is creating a hex underneath Westview, creating this Witch's Road in order to fulfill his goal, which is to find Tommy, you know. Does that mean he's gonna recreate Tommy? And it won't be the actual Tommy? I don't know, maybe that would be too complicated. But yeah, that's Agatha All Along, episode 7. As for next time, it might take me a little bit longer to get the video up, just because it's going to be 2 episodes in one night, and also it's coming out close to Halloween, and it'll probably take me a while to get to the editing, but it'll come. It'll be here. So I'll see you next time then. Maybe not on the Witch's Road. Maybe we'll have reached the end by then and move on to a different road. Regardless, I'll be here under the moonlight. Bye bye.